Okay, can everybody hear me okay? All right. Oh, thanks for joining us again today. We have slippers there in the back, so if your feet get cold, please use the slippers. Okay, today we're looking at chapter 4. It begins on page 51, but I'll start reading on page 53. Okay, so 이거 53쪽입니다. Further bodhisattvas, further subhuti, bodhisattvas now able to function as one with everything and perceive their connection with uncountable beings and the unimaginable support and aid they've received over eons, should offer loving help unconditionally, free of thoughts of I or I did. To put it another way, help others without being caught up in their appearances, and offer aid wholeheartedly. Don't be caught up in your senses, nor deceived by others' words, for only your utterly sincere, all-embracing mind is capable of helping people unconditionally. Subhuti, the material realm and the spiritual realm are not two. Bodhisattvas have realized this and function accordingly, so everything they do, all their actions, benefit, sustain, and support all the world. If they had any thought of I am or I did, then they could not function thus, as a truly free being. Why? Because it is working without any trace of I that gives rise to the unimaginable virtue and merit that is capable of benefiting others in any circumstances. So, Subhuti, if you look to the sky in the east, are your thoughts capable of grasping everything that's happening there throughout all the seen and unseen realms? No, world-honored one, such a thing is not possible. If you look to the north, south, or west, if you look to the heavens, if you look to the earth, can your thoughts grasp the arising and disappearing, the functioning interactions of this whole? No, world-honored one, they cannot. Likewise, Subhuti, if you help others while free of concepts of me or I did, your thoughts cannot begin to approach the vastness of the resulting virtue and merit. Subhuti, as I've just taught you, as you've already sensed, and as it has always been, the key is your one mind. It is this mind that transcends inner and outer, embracing everything as one, which makes possible this middle path and these marvelous actions. Okay, these are all really fascinating chapters because Sunim is laying out the structure of how everything in the universe is actually working. And so here in English as well as Korean, the title is a little bit complicated. The title of chapter 4 is The Middle Path and Miraculous Actions Both Arise from Functioning as One Mind with No Distinctions of Inner or Outer. That's a mouthful, right? But what does it mean? In my opinion, what it means is that because we are existing as one whole, we are existing as a whole without any separation of self or other, upper or lower, good or bad. All this is functioning as one whole. And when we let go of these discriminations, when we let go of these distinctions, then it puts us in tune with this energy of the whole, and it lets this energy of the whole manifest. If we're still holding very firmly on the separation, on the discriminations, then it's as if this energy of the whole can't function freely. The more divisions we put up, a lot of these things like I, me, mine, these are, in a way, these are like psychological tools to protect ourselves. But at a certain level, they actually block us. They cut us off from things coming to us. A very simple example is money, right? Sunims, monastics, Buddhist monks, Buddhist nuns, basically live on the donations of others, right? And it's if you don't need a lot, it doesn't. If you don't need a lot, you don't worry too much about it because your needs aren't that much. But one of the funny things is that if you live while letting go, what you need tends to show up, right? Especially if you're, in Korean, the expression is running errands for the Dharma, running errands for the Buddha Dharma, right? If you're doing what in American English, it might be, if you're doing what the universe needs done, right? If you're working on behalf of the whole, then what you need tends to show up. But the funny thing is, if you start, consciously or unconsciously, if you start thinking, oh, this is mine, I have this much, I have to protect this, then nothing else comes to you. Stuff doesn't come to you very well. And it's like, if you compared it to water, and water flowed to you and you said, oh, I have to keep this water. I have to put it in jars and keep it and protect it and save it. Well, if you do that, after a while, it's going to turn green, right? And it's the same thing with everything. Once you start trying to possess it, trying to call it mine, it breaks this flowing. It keeps stuff from coming to you. Money, love, affection, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to give rise to. That trying to create that separation, and I don't know any other way to say it, but it blocks that flowing. And you can really see this in your own life. And what Daehaeng Sunim is talking about in this chapter, and she uses the word middle path, and the best we can, the Korean is quite nice. The English is a little bit clunky, but the middle path and marvelous actions, right? This kind of, and you could sort of say miraculous things, or things you can't explain, or things you didn't expect, beyond what you could have expected. When everything starts flowing, when you connect with this one whole, then that kind of energy arises. Then those kinds of things happen. And the reason is because we are this one whole. When we act in tune with that, the energy of this whole connects with us. If we try, if we have family that's trying to help us, and we say, no, you're not my family, get away, they can't help us. Maybe that's a poor analogy, but it's kind of like that. And let's see. So in bodhisattvas are commonly called awakened beings, or they're thought of as very compassionate beings who are acting on behalf of who come to help you, or sometimes very spiritually powerful beings. And the very first lines on page 53 say, further Subhuti, bodhisattvas now able to function as one with everything and perceiving their connection with uncountable beings, should offer help, loving help unconditionally. One of the things about this is that it's giving the reader a big hint, but it's also saying, well, I'm sorry, there's like 3 or 4 things it's all saying at the same time, and I'm trying to say them all at the same time, and it's not coming out well. So one of the things is that these actions that bodhisattvas are doing are manifestations of this non-dual whole, right? Because they're manifestations of this non-dual whole, they're going to benefit everybody. They're going to, if you think of a rough surface with little dips and valleys and peaks and everything, they're going to fill it in perfectly. The pieces that are too strong, they're going to smooth out and cause them to relax, and the pieces that are too weak, they're going to strengthen them. Likewise, even though you're awakened, even though you reach the point where you realize, everything's connected as one, you still have the habit energy that you came up with as you evolved into a human being. And so you may just have a glimpse of this bigger connection, but your habit energy could still be really strong. And so it may be helpful to you to remember, offer help unconditionally. Because it's kind of a thing sometimes where I remember this was years ago, a Sunim asked Daehaeng Sunim a question and said, well, sometimes people come asking for help or they ask for something and they don't really feel very sincere. I kind of don't want to deal with them. And Sunim said, it doesn't matter. Just, do it unconditionally, right? This is a sincere person, this person, they're asking this question, but they don't really mean that, or they want you to agree with them that it's really their stupid husband's fault or their stupid wife's fault or their brother's fault or something, and it's something a little bit manipulative emotionally. And Kunsin was just saying, doesn't matter, just unconditionally, and trust the whole situation. You don't need to, if you're going to truly help them, and you do it unconditionally, you entrust it unconditionally, then this energy of the whole can connect with them to the extent that they are practicing, and to the extent that they are letting go. This energy of the whole can connect with them and help them out at whatever level they're at. And sometimes help isn't what we think of as help, right? Sometimes we think of as help as getting what I want. And sometimes not getting what I want is actually the real help, right? Sometimes shutting a door so I change my path is real help. If somebody's heading down evil paths, maybe even dying is real help, right? It's hard to say, but if you kept going this way, you were going in a really bad direction, and whatever it takes not to go that direction. Okay. And so Daehaeng Sunim comes back to this in the last 4 lines on page 53. Don't be caught up in your senses, nor deceived by other people's words, right? So it doesn't matter. Don't be caught up in what they're saying. Don't be caught up in their appearance. There's so many stories, especially in Chinese Buddhism, about basically bodhisattvas showing up to test you, or test somebody. This was funny. This was probably completely ordinary. But one morning, as I was on my way to class by Yonsei University in Seoul, I was coming from kind of the back neighborhood. It was really quiet. I think maybe our Korean language class started early or something because there was nobody else moving around. And this guy just appeared, this guy just came up to me. I didn't really see where he came from. And he said, don't juseyo, or give me, please give me some money, or I'm really hungry or something. And I was like a student, and I didn't have any money, but I gave him, like, I think probably 5,000 won, which was like, to me, that was a lot of money. And, you know, back then, that would buy you lunch easily. And so I gave him 5,000 won. I put my wallet back, and I looked up the road, and I looked back, and the guy was gone, right? He was just gone. I was like, where the heck did he go? Did he like run away? Or maybe it wasn't really a person who asked me for money. It was probably a person, but it was really bizarre. And I mean, sometimes saying no is fine too. You know, you don't have to, you don't need to be a victim, right? You know, somebody asks you for something, oh, I have to give you everything I have. Give me your phone. Oh, sure. You know, that's not necessarily wisdom, right? If you're fairly, have a very deep connection, maybe it's the case where somebody asks for your phone and you say, okay, and you see, maybe you see there's a debt from, you know, 500 years ago. I owe this person a debt. So even though my hand phone is like, really, my precious, even though my hand phone is precious to me, oh, you know, this debt I have with this other person, paying that off is a much better deal. If I can pay that off with this, then even though I lose my hand phone and have to mess around with stuff, I still come out ahead, right? So, but that's, you know, that's a little bit beyond the ordinary level there. That's also why if you pick up on this, you know, to the extent that you keep letting go, you keep entrusting what you're experiencing, and you get a sense of this non-dual connection, it also makes it clear to you why treating other people badly, or stealing, or in the Korean word is cunning, is a bad idea, because whatever you take by sort of dubious means, you're going to lose that much plus more, right? If I was like, oh, I can steal 100,000 won from him, but it's going to cost me 150,000 won. It's like, oh, that's a terrible deal. Or it's going to cost me 300,000 won, right? It's like, hey, just keep your money. You know, that's going to hurt too much. But that's the way things work, right? If to the extent that we give that much, you know, Daehaeng, you know, she used simple explanations when she was, a lot of times she was just talking to people who didn't have any real education. And she said, it's just like interest. If you give something, that plus interest comes back to you. If you take something, that plus interest leaves you. And so, you know, to the extent that you feel this non-dual connection, this whole, that also becomes kind of clear to you that, oh, wait a minute, if I do this, am I going to lose this plus this much more? So, okay. Let me see what else I want to talk about here. So if we look at page 55, 저 55쪽 보시면, the very last 5 lines, because it is working without any trace of I, that gives rise to the unimaginable virtue and merit that is capable of benefiting others in any circumstances. So this is another one of those hints that Sunim is describing how deeply awakened people function. But she's also telling us indirectly, even if you're not at that point, try to do this, right? Try to live according to this. You know, try to help people unconditionally, even if it doesn't seem fair, right? Even if it's like, this guy doesn't deserve this. Let him suffer. Even if that's what comes to your first thought, try to entrust that. Try try to treat them unconditionally. Likewise, try to do stuff without this trace of I. No, this is mine. I did this. You know, and these get more and more subtle as you go along. You know, very sort of a crude level. This is mine, or look what I did. But as you keep going, you'll find really subtle levels. Oh, I helped people today, or oh, you know, I did this good thing for people, or you know, it gets more and more subtle, but it's still there in a different level, a different way. And so, you know, when you perceive that, when you become aware of that, just make an effort to let go of that. You know, kind of stop feeding it energy, right? Like, give it a break, kind of step back from it for a minute, and try to let go of that. You know, sometimes you may need to remind yourself, okay, it's not me doing this. It's my true self. It's my foundation. It's this whole that's doing things. So I'm just running errands for that. And you know, sometimes a little, I don't know what the right word is, maybe cognitive processing kind of helps you let go of it. You say, oh, it's not me doing this. It's my true self. It's my Buddha nature that's doing things. Okay, I can let go of this. Sometimes if you're frustrated with somebody and they're behaving badly, and you know, part of you is thinking, no, you should behave better. But if you look at that and you, oh, right, I used to behave like that when I didn't know better, right? Back when I didn't, you know, when I didn't know better, that's how I behaved. Okay. And then sometimes those little things like that can kind of help you get past that. And so to the extent that that works for you, use it by all means. Look for examples like that. I was really frustrated with somebody for 3 days straight. We were traveling together, and he didn't mean badly, but he wasn't very good at doing stuff. It got really frustrating. It got on my nerves. And it was his job. And he was supposed to be doing his job, but he wasn't doing a great job at it. And on the third day, I remembered something Sunim said in a Dharma talk, where she said, sometimes this is your true self testing you. You know, to see if you're going to let go or not. I remembered that and I was like, crud. Okay. And as soon as I thought of it from that perspective, I could let go of it. His faults or his deficiencies, maybe, stopped bugging me at that point. It was like, oh, right. This isn't him, this is my true self poking me and seeing if I'm going to do this or not. And so once I perceived it from that perspective, and that's kind of the perspective of the whole, right? You know, I also used to behave like that. That's seeing things from the past and present kind of combined, not just this one slice, but you know, how things used to be in the past, how I used to be in the past, including that. Okay, so because, you know, so we need to let go of this sense of I, let go of this sense of me. And the Buddha, on the next couple pages, he talks about why. You know, if you look at the sky in the east, can you perceive everything that's going on? If you look at the north, south, or west, do you understand everything that's happening in all seen and unseen realms? And the answer is no, right? I mean, literally, I can't see everybody in this room because some people are blocking other people. This is just one little room. You know, how can I understand all the, you know, stuff, the visible and the unseen realms? But this connection we have, in the English translation is one mind. This whole is everything that's happening is part of that. So this whole knows what's going on, and this whole can respond to it. So in a way, Sunim is saying, trust this whole. Let this whole, you know, give this whole direction. Assign the job to the whole to take care of. Okay. On page 59, I need to. The first paragraph says, if you help people while free of concepts of me or I did, your thoughts cannot approach the vastness of the resulting virtue and merit. Normally, virtue and merit, this is what the Korean says. I mean, this is the word that's used. The way it's always interpreted as something you get, right? As something you get that benefits you. And that's not untrue. But in this context, this virtue and merit is something that also benefits everybody else. It's not just me that's benefiting, the whole is benefiting. If I turn on the lights and the heat in here, it's not just me that benefits, everyone else in here benefits from that. And so when we talk about virtue and merit, or in Korean, kongdeok, that's one of the aspects of it. So in Kumbangyang, several times it talks about, the virtue and merit is vast. The virtue and merit is vast. And it gets easy to think of that as something that I gain, as something I obtain. But the deeper meaning is something that benefits the whole. It's, to use American English, I guess it's American, you could say it's a blessing. It's something that blesses the whole. And I'm part of the whole, so I benefit as well. There's other aspects to it, but that's one interesting point about virtue and merit. And so, chapter 4 ties right into chapter 5, right? In chapter 4, it's saying, don't get caught up in appearances, right? Don't get caught up in your preconceived ideas about how things are happening. In chapter 5, the title goes straight into builds straight on that point. You have to see through the mind's eye, right? Don't see through your preconceived ideas. See through this inner eye, right? Try to perceive, try to listen. Just listen through this inner eye, this inner ear, and see what it's telling you about the situation. Okay, it's one of those things, it's like a muscle you have to practice using. The more you practice entrusting, the more you practice letting go, the better your ability to let go and entrust becomes, and the more sensitive you get to what's going on with other people. So you may meet somebody they sound wonderful, they're saying all the right things, but inside your feeling is like not good, right? Your feeling might be run. It's like, oh, I can't run away. That'd be really strange and awkward. So you let that go inside. It's like going, run, leave now, right? But imagine a case like the Hanmaum Pekwajam, right? Oh, everything's fine. We're just shopping, and something saying you need to get out now. You need to move now. And that's one of those things. You can't, because this non-dual, and Korean uses the word place a lot. I like it. It's a little deceptive in English, but this non-dual place is the whole, and it's connected to everything. So that it has a true understanding of what's going on. And it can really guide us as far as what we need to do and how we need to do it. Chapter 5, it's funny because the title sort of says one thing, but the main point on chapter 5 is a little bit different. So we know that Tathagata is often described as one of the titles of the Buddha, right? Buddha is a title, Tathagata is also a title. So the historical man's name was Shakyamuni, right? Gautama. And his family name was Shakyamuni. Or actually his family name was Gautama Shaka, I think. But anyway, Tathagata is a title and Buddha is a title. That's the way it's normally used. But Tathagata, in this text, Tathagata is not a title. Tathagata is, in English, the word is probably thusness. In Korean, it might be yoyoham. And it's a terrible word to translate into English. Thusness. It's like, what does that thusness mean? It's really annoying. I hate translating it because every context you have to do something a little bit different. But the point is, when Subhuti is looking at the Buddha, and the Buddha said, are you seeing Tathagata? And if you think of, well, Shakyamuni is Buddha and Shakyamuni is Tathagata, you'd be like, well, yes, I'm seeing Tathagata. And the Buddha is saying, no. Well, actually, Subhuti has already figured this out, but this body is not Tathagata. This body, because Tathagata actually means the whole, right? A simple way of translating Tathagata is the whole. So you're not seeing the whole, you're seeing a manifestation of the whole. But that one person, that one body, isn't the whole. And if you want to see the whole, then you have to get to this non-dual place where all unseen realms and seen realms and their functioning are not two. If you perceive that, then you're perceiving the whole. The other thing that this is hinting at is it's the first time it's telling us that Tathagata is not Shakyamuni. So there's a lot of places going forward where the book is saying, the Diamond Sutra is saying, Tathagata says that, XYZ, right? Well, it's not Shakyamuni saying, it's strange, it reads strange if you don't know this, because Shakyamuni is like talking about himself in the third person. I, Chongo, Chongo is telling you that. It'd be like that. It's like, what are we, the Queen of England or something? And so it comes across as a little strange if you don't know better. But what he's doing is saying, Tathagata is the whole. The whole is telling you this, this, and this. The whole is telling you that you need to be doing things like this, or that this is the nature of reality. And so that's a really fascinating point to keep in mind. The very first draft we did of this book, the very first draft we did, we translated Tathagata as a person's title, like Buddha. And by the time we got to the end, we realized we made a mistake. We had to go back and translate it as from the perspective of the whole. And we use the word Tathagata, but the phrasing in the English needs to reflect that it's the whole or one mind that is saying this. And in every case except one, we were able to say it like that. There's one place in here where it's really hard not to say it's a person saying this. And I suspect that case was probably just our lack of as deep an understanding of what's going on. Whereas if I'd had an even deeper perspective or a better perspective, I might have found a way to express it that way. But every other case, it was possible to express this as, one mind is saying, the whole is saying, the whole teaches. And so it's a really fascinating point about Daehaeng Sim's translation of the Diamond Sutra. So we'll go ahead and have a group discussion here in just a minute, but I'd like to just go back over this, that these 2 chapters are pointing out that all this miraculous stuff, all this great energy of the whole, it comes from the whole. And in order for that to arise, we have to be moving in tune with the whole. And that means letting go of the divisions that we give rise to, letting go of the, a lot of these divisions are useful things, right? We have to set some boundaries in our lives, right? You can't just let everybody take from you, right? If you don't set it, this is sometimes Sunim would look at people and go, well, duh. It's that kind of expression, oh, of course. Because there's a funny thing. If you don't set any boundaries, then kind people with too much energy will run over the top of you because they won't know, they have so much energy, they don't notice that you're reluctant to do something. And abusive people will love to take advantage of you because they can get you to do stuff for them. Like, oh, hey, give me your money, or whatever. And they'll take advantage of you just because that's the level of functioning they're at. And so we need to be able to say no. You need to be able to stand up to abusive people and say no. You need to be able to stand up to well-intentioned, over-energetic people and say, no, I don't want to do that. And so all these things have a useful point. You have to be able to budget your money, right? You need to know how much money you have for this month and next month, and you need to pay your rent, and you need to pay your electric bill, or it's going to get cold. And so you have to set aside money for that, and you have to have some wisdom. But all these things are tools, right? If I find this cup really helpful, and I carry around this cup all day long, and I try to sleep with this cup next to me in bed, I'm going to have some problems, right? At the very least, people are going to think I'm kind of crazy. And most of the things related to the I did, this is mine, are a bit like this. We need them 5% of the time, right? We need them 6% of the time. But instead, we accidentally carry them around 80% of the time. And so in order to get in touch with this whole, we need to let go of those. We need to set that stuff down. It's not important to think, I did this. It's not particularly useful to think, he did this to me back in the 7th grade and da-da-da-da. It does me no good. If somebody's behaving badly, or if somebody's maybe not so good at something, I might need to do something like that. Oh, he's a terrible driver. No matter what, don't drive with him. Don't let him drive, right? Or, she manages money terribly. Don't put her in charge of the money, whatever you do. This kind of stuff, we need to make these distinctions to get through life. But we also need to not be caught up in that. That's a tool that we use, not a tool that uses us, not something that uses us like a tool. So when we let go of this I, when we get past this stuff, then Kunsen is saying this whole, this miraculous whole opens up for us. All right. Thank you very much.